The first day of my final year in college felt like a new beginning. The corridors buzzed with laughter, excitement, and the faint smell of fresh notebooks. I didn't know that this day would change my life forever. I was 22, focused on getting through my degree and trying to figure out my future. Love. Relationships. None of that was on my mind, but fate always has its own plans. When she walked into the classroom, everything fell silent. Professor Alina Khan. She was new to the college, the kind of teacher who carried an aura that made everyone sit up straight. Dressed in a light blue sari, with a soft, confident voice that echoed through the hall, she began introducing herself.
I'm Professor Alina Khan, your new lecturer for English literature. I hope this year will not only teach you about books, but about life itself.
Her tone was calm yet powerful, like she owned every word she spoke. Her eyes scanned the room, then stopped at me for a brief second. My heartbeat raced, but I quickly looked down, pretending to take notes. Throughout the lecture, I couldn't focus on the words, only her voice. Every sentence felt like poetry, every gesture hypnotic. The way she pushed her hair behind her ear while explaining The Great Gatsby made time freeze for me.
Did you need something, Mr.
Ahsan. No, ma'am. Just wanted to say it was a good lecture.
Thank you, Ahsan. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
That simple smile haunted me the rest of the day. I couldn't eat, couldn't concentrate. I didn't understand why. It wasn't just attraction. It was something deeper, something I couldn't name. That night, as I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, her voice replayed in my mind. Maybe it was just admiration. Maybe it was just a passing feeling. But deep down, I already knew. Something had begun inside me. Something I couldn't stop. Something called love. Days turned into weeks, but that first lecture never left my mind. Every time Professor Alina entered the classroom, my world slowed down. Her presence had a quiet power, the kind that didn't need attention, yet drew every eye toward her. I started sitting in the front row, pretending it was for better notes, but really, it was just to be closer. Every time she read a line from a poem, it felt like she was reading my thoughts. Sometimes, when our eyes met mid-lecture, it felt like electricity. Brief, unspoken, yet undeniable.
Ahsan, what do you think the poet meant by eternal love?
Her voice was calm, curious.
Maybe he meant that real love never dies, even when people do.
That's a beautiful answer.
After class, she called me to stay. My pulse quickened.
I noticed you have a good understanding of literature. Would you like to help me with some research papers after class?
Of course, ma'am, I managed to say, trying not to sound too eager.
From that day, I spent more time in her office. We talked about books, art, and sometimes, life. She told me she had studied abroad, loved old poetry, and hated noisy places. There was a calm sadness in her voice when she mentioned her past.
Do you ever feel lonely, ma'am?
Sometimes, but loneliness can teach you a lot about yourself.
Her answer stayed with me. The distance between us began to fade, not physically, but emotionally. Our conversations grew longer, softer, deeper. I started waiting for her messages, her calls for help on assignments, her approving smiles in class. I didn't realize when admiration turned into something dangerous, something forbidden, because every time she smiled at me now, I no longer saw a teacher. I saw a woman, someone my heart was beginning to claim. What began as small after-class discussions soon turned into daily conversations. Professor Alina's office became my second home. The smell of books, coffee, and her soft perfume filled the air every time I walked in. At first, it was about research and literature, analyzing poetry, discussing meanings behind Shakespeare's metaphors. But slowly, our talks wandered beyond the pages. She began sharing bits of her life, and I listened like every word was a secret meant only for me. One evening while reviewing an essay, she sighed and leaned back.
People think being a teacher means having all the answers. But sometimes, I feel like I'm still searching for my own.
Her voice had a sadness I couldn't ignore.
What are you searching for?
Peace, maybe. Or someone who understands without asking too much.
That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in my mind. I wanted to be that person, the one who understood her silence. Soon, our chats moved from the classroom to messages. At first, it was about assignments, then about books, then about life. And then we'd talk for hours, about everything and nothing. One night, she sent me a message that changed everything.
Sometimes I forget you're my student. You feel different.
I stared at my screen, my heart pounding.
Maybe because I see you as more than a teacher.
There was no reply for a long time. I thought I had gone too far. But then, finally, a message appeared.
Good night, Ahsan.
It wasn't much, but the way she wrote my name felt like a whisper of affection. The next day in class, things felt different. Every glance, every word between us carried a hidden meaning. Her voice softened when she spoke to me. When our eyes met, it was no longer just respect, it was longing. One evening, after everyone left, I helped her carry some books to the library. Our hands brushed, just for a second, but it was enough. Enough to make my heart tremble, enough to awaken everything we'd both tried to hide. We didn't speak about it, we didn't need to. The silence said it all. Love was blooming in the shadows, quiet, forbidden, and unstoppable. The weather had changed. It was one of those late evenings when the sky looked heavy, and the smell of rain lingered in the air. Classes were almost over, and the corridors were quiet. Only the faint echo of footsteps and the soft hum of thunder in the distance. I stayed back to return some papers to Professor Alina. Her office light was still on. Through the glass door, I saw her sitting by the window staring out at the rain. Something about that moment felt different, fragile, lonely, almost poetic.
Ahsan, you're still here?
Yes, ma'am. I brought the essays you asked for.
You didn't have to. You could have given them tomorrow.
I didn't want you to wait.
For a moment, silence filled the room. The kind of silence that says more than words ever could. The rain outside began to pour harder. She stood up, walked to close the window, and the breeze made her hair dance around her face.
You look tired.
It's been a long week.
You don't have to handle everything alone, you know.
She turned to me, her expression unreadable. You shouldn't say things like that, Ahsan.
Why not? I asked, my voice shaking slightly. Because I'm your student.
Her eyes met mine, a storm of emotion behind them. Yes, she whispered, because it's wrong.
But what if something feels right even when the world says it's wrong?
For a second, she didn't move. The only sound was the rain. Then quietly, she said,
You don't understand what you're saying.
I do, I said. Because I paused, gathering my courage. Because I love you, Mom.
Ahsan, please don't. You'll make this harder.
Harder. I stepped closer. Then tell me you don't feel the same. I wanted to hold her, but I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I whispered, I'll never tell anyone. I just needed you to know.
She turned away, whispering, You shouldn't love me.
But I do, I said softly, and maybe you do too.
I left the room before she could reply, leaving her standing by the window, the rain still falling, washing away everything except the truth we could no longer hide. The weather had changed. It was one of those late evenings when the sky looked heavy and the smell of rain lingered in the air. Classes were almost over, and the corridors were quiet, only the faint echo of footsteps and the soft hum of thunder in the distance. I stayed back to return some papers to Professor Alina. Her office light was still on. Through the glass door, I saw her sitting by the window, staring out at the rain. Something about that moment felt different. Fragile, lonely, almost poetic.
She turned, her eyes soft. Ahsan, you're still here?
Yes, Mom, I brought the essays you asked for.
She smiled faintly. You didn't have to. You could have given them tomorrow.
I didn't want you to wait, I replied. My voice came out lower than I expected.
For a moment, silence filled the room, the kind of silence that says more than words ever could. The rain outside began to pour harder. She stood up, walked to close the window, and the breeze made her hair dance around her face.
You look tired, I said softly.
It's been a long week.
You don't have to handle everything alone, you know.
You shouldn't say things like that, Ahsan.
Why not? Because I'm your student?
Yes, because it's wrong.
But what if something feels right even when the world says it's wrong?
You don't understand what you're saying.
I do, because I love you, Mom.
Ahsan, please don't. You'll make this harder.
Harder? Then tell me you don't feel the same. I'll never tell anyone. I just needed you to know.
You shouldn't love me.
But I do, and maybe you do too.
5 years. It's strange how time moves, fast enough to blur faces, yet slow enough to never erase the ones that matter most. I was 27 now. My life looked stable on the outside. A small apartment in Lahore, a rising career as a writer, interviews, book signings. People told me I had everything, but they didn't know that every word I wrote came from a memory I could never let go of. Her, Professor Alina Khan. The woman who changed my life without ever meaning to. The one who taught me literature and left me with heartbreak that became my muse. My debut book, The Rain Between Us, had become a bestseller. It was about forbidden love between a teacher and a student, written in whispers, truth hidden behind fiction. Readers adored it. They called it poetic, powerful, tragic. None of them knew it wasn't imagination. It was my confession wrapped in ink. One rainy morning, I got a call from my publisher.
There's a literature seminar at your old college, he said. They want you to speak there. Would you be interested?
I hesitated. That place was a memory I'd buried deep, but something inside me whispered, "Go." "Sure," I replied. "I'll do it." When I returned to campus, the world seemed both familiar and foreign. The trees were taller, the walls freshly painted, yet the air smelled the same. It carried that mix of nostalgia and pain I could never shake off. I walked past the garden where I once waited after class, just to see her walk by. Past the library where our fingers brushed for the first time. Past the corridor where I confessed my heart under the sound of rain. Everything was the same. Except us. After my lecture ended, people gathered for photos and autographs. I smiled politely, shaking hands, thanking students. Then, just as the crowd began to fade, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. Soft, calm, and heartbreakingly familiar.
Congratulations, Mr. Ahsan.
I froze. My heart skipped a beat before I even turned around, and when I did, time stopped. She stood there, Professor Alina. She looked almost the same, yet different in the way time refines beauty. Her hair was shorter now, her style simpler, but her eyes, those warm, intelligent brown eyes, still carried that same quiet sadness. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The sound of rain outside filled the silence between us.
You've done well for yourself. I had a good teacher, I said softly. I read your book, she said. It's beautiful. Did you recognize yourself in it? She let out a small laugh. How could I not? You described the rain too perfectly. We both laughed, awkwardly, tenderly. It felt like we were two ghosts meeting in daylight, both pretending we didn't still carry the past.
We walked together across the campus garden. The drizzle had started again, just enough to mist the air. She walked with her usual calm grace, hands folded in front of her.
I thought you'd left teaching, I said. I tried, she admitted, smiling, but it's who I am. I came back. This college, it feels like home. There was a brief pause. Then she asked quietly, "And you? Are you happy?"
I hesitated before answering. I've found success, maybe not peace. Peace, she repeated softly. Peace doesn't come easy when your heart still belongs to someone who lives in your memories.
She stopped walking. I turned to look at her. The rain had started to fall heavier now, drops gliding down her hair. Her eyes shimmered. Ahsan. Yes? Some feelings don't fade. We just learn to live beside them. Her words were gentle, but each one struck deep.
We found a small bench under the same tree where she once gave me advice about poetry. Do you ever think about that time? I asked.
Every now and then, especially when it rains.
Why did you walk away that day? I always wanted to know.
Because I loved you, Ahsan. And that love scared me. I didn't want to destroy your future because of my heart. The world seemed to pause around us. The sound of rain, the smell of wet earth, her trembling voice, everything felt like déjà vu.
You didn't destroy me. You made me. You were always meant for more than a forbidden love story. And you were the reason I became a writer. Every line I wrote was my way of keeping you alive in my world.
Her lips trembled, and a single tear escaped her eye, blending with the rain. I'm proud of you.
Minutes passed in silence. The kind of silence that says everything words can't. Finally, she stood up. I should go. I have a class to teach. I nodded, forcing a smile. And I have a flight to catch. She extended her hand. Goodbye, Ahsan. I took it, holding it a little too long, memorizing the warmth I knew I'd lose again. Goodbye, ma'am. As she turned to leave, I called out, Alina! She stopped, turning back with surprise. Thank you, I said softly, for every lesson and every heartbreak.
Her lips curved into a trembling smile. Some lessons, she whispered, are meant to last a lifetime. And then she walked away, slowly, gracefully, disappearing into the rain.
I stood there for a long time, letting the rain soak me, feeling both empty and complete. Because love, real love, doesn't always end with togetherness. Sometimes, it ends with understanding. And as I walked out of the campus gates, I realized something. She would always live in my words, in my stories, in every drop of rain that touched my skin. She was gone, but she was everywhere.